Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are delighted that participants from different parts of the world are here with us today. And whether you're joining us live or watching us later, thank you for being with us. Thank you for participating with your comments, your questions, and being here for yet another session of the Spiritist Talk series that is promoted by the United States Spiritist Federation. And we hold our talks every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It is such a pleasure to be here as the host of today's talk, which will be presented by Flavio Zanetti. Hi, Flavio. How you doing?
Hello, Marcia. Hello, everyone. It's so good to be here once again. I miss you guys. So I'm looking forward to a conversation today.
Absolutely. So Flavio here will be speaking on well-being through forgiveness, the most important message from Christ. And I just want all of us to, with our minds, give Flavio a I can't tongue-tied. Warm welcome to him. But before we begin, Flavio, please allow me to introduce you for those who may not know you yet. Flavio Zanetti has worked in the board of directors of the Allan Kardec Spiritist Society of Massachusetts, and he also worked in different positions. He acted as the program's director for the United States Spiritist Council, and he was one of the founding members of the Spiritist Institute, a nonprofit organization dedicated to advance Spiritism in the English language. Flavio also contributes to Spiritism as a translator of printed Spiritist materials, as well as Spiritist events nationwide. Professionally, Flavio is a senior leader in the IT software space, and he has a degree in engineering, sociology, and business. Well-rounded person. But please feel free to send, as I mentioned before, your questions at any time during this presentation so that we can talk about them at the end. Go ahead, Flavio. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Marcia. Appreciate the warm introduction. Once again, thank you for all those who are following us live. For those of you who are following us in a recorded session, welcome. It's a great pleasure to be here once again. It's been almost about a year or so the last time we were here together, and my heart's filled with gratitude for the invitation. Which I not hesitantly accepted right away. I love these sessions. I love these events. It's a great opportunity for us to get together as one Spiritist family, one Spiritist group, and talk about some of the topics that make sense for us, hopefully, and surely will make sense for you as well. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our benefactor spirits, our guardian angels, that have allowed us to be here this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whenever we watch this session. May they bring peace to our hearts. May they enlighten our minds so that we can really pass along the message with the same care and trust that we did to prepare for you guys. Right? So we're talking about well-being through forgiveness, the Spiritist perspective, or the most important message from Christ. Imagine if somebody asked us, hey, Flavio, hey, Joe, hey, Maria, hey, Marcia, hey, Dan, if we were to summarize Christ's teachings in one word, what would that be? Difficult task, right? Can we summarize Christ's teachings in one word? My argument is yes, we can, and that word is forgiveness. If we don't have forgiveness, it's very difficult to put in practice Christ's teachings. And then, if we delve into forgiveness as the act, what part of me is still holding onto this hurt? Imagine somebody hurt me, somebody did something to me that afflicted me, that brought affliction to my life, or to a loved one close to me. What part of me is still holding onto this hurt? What is it protecting? Am I protecting this hurt, this issue, this damage, right? If I truly let go of this resentment, what would I become without it? And if I'm withholding forgiveness from others, if I'm not forgiving others in the same way that I struggle to forgive myself, when I start asking these questions, right, what kind of lessons can I get or can I take away from Christ's message that can really connect forgiveness with a growth mindset, with a pain-free living? Really, really in a way that the argument is, if I forgive, I live better. The more that I forgive, the better I live. And sometimes my resistance to forgiveness has nothing to do with the act. My resistance with forgiveness has nothing to do with, so-and-so did something to me. I'm not really attached to the wound anymore. What's causing me not be able to forgive? Those are some of the parts that we're going to carry on in our short presentation today. So, if I were to start our conversation here with this story, and this story that happened during the First World War, so between 1910s, and the 1920s, there was a conflict that erupted between the Turks and the Armenians. In this conflict, this war overall, Turkey pretty much decimated 1.5 million Armenians on ethnic grounds. Amidst so many tragedies, and to really, really illustrate the theme of forgiveness, I'm going to use this book here, written by a pastor named Brian Zand. And the name of the book is Unconditional Forgiveness, The Call of Jesus to Radical Forgiveness. So how can we really practice unconditional forgiveness? So the story goes, there was this young Armenian, or this Armenian family, who lived in a very uphill of a small hill on the top of the hill. And that hill was really privileged because at the top of the hill, you could see all the valley and all the surroundings. So it was a very strategic location where the Turkish military was really interested in really building a base on that top of the hill. There was this captain that was, leading the troops. And this captain went in to that small, house in the village, in the top of the hill. And the captain was very abrupt in a way that he entered the house and he saw there a family of two girls, and parents and two girls. The father was working the land. The mother was taking care of the house, taking care of the daughters. There's a 12-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old daughter. So this captain comes in, and in one, very brutal act, murders the family, rapes the little girl, driving her to her death, rapes the 15-year-old, and not content with that rape, the tragic act, he takes on to become his sexual slave for the rest of the war. So for about, a couple of years, that young woman, adolescent, 15 years old, continues with this captain and these troops, becoming his sexual slave for so many years. Sometime later, she was able to escape and gaunt, emaciated, and managed to really carry on a life, right, on her own. She subsequently went back to school, earned a diploma, became a nurse, and around the year of 1925, 26, if I'm not mistaken, while working at a public hospital in Istanbul, Turkey, where Istanbul, Turkey is now, she was really called upon to care for a patient that was covered in fatted, virulent ulcers. This patient was really in hardship, right? He was only expected to live a few days, maybe a few weeks, if so. When the hospital director saw the patient, which was a general at that time, from the army, we have to do what we can to care for this general who helped, our country in so many battles, yada, yada, yada. And then he picked that nurse to care for this patient. And she very patiently and carefully cared for that patient for about 6 months. Sometimes even staying with him, right, through all his recovery, sleeping by his side on her free time, ensuring that he was getting the best care possible in the hospital. Then, fast forward to 6 months later, the patient wakes up, he's fully recovered. It's a miracle, right? He wasn't expected to live, but he lived, and he went to the hospital director to thank him for all the care and the help and assistance and so forth. When he went to talk to the hospital director, hey, I really want to thank you. He goes, no, don't thank me. You go talk to the nurse who took care of you, sir. She was the reason why you're alive. Because with all these wounds and all these patients, if she didn't really spend her own time caring for you, I don't know if it could have saved you. And then he goes and talks to her. And then he starts talking to her. I want to thank you for everything you've done to me. You were instrumental in my life being recovered and so forth. And then when no problem, I'm glad I was able to help you and all that. When she answered that, he recognized her voice. And he asked us, have we met before? And then she said, yes, sir, we met before. Remember the top of the hill? When during the war, you entered my house, you murdered my parents, you abused my sister, you killed them in front of me. Not content, you took me to be your servant for a handful of years. I managed to escape, and here I am, I'm here. And then he was appalled. Why didn't you let me die? What drove you to really did what you did, right? What happened? I mean, I can't even imagine, right? And then she replied, so if I had done so, as you suggested, I would become just like my tormentor. I would have become just like the person that caused all those traumas in my life. And my conscience would have punished me so severely for having stooped to the level of such depravity. And then she looked. There was a small picture of Jesus in the cross. And then she looked and she made that sign. She opened up her arms and said, because I follow him. And he told me to forgive. He told me to forgive. And then the nurse ended up carrying her life and so forth. So they shook hands, right? Then they said goodbye to each other. So the exceptional care by this Armenian nurse, exceptional care, in a situation that most of us would have not done. I don't know about you guys, but if that had happened to me, I don't know if I'll be able to do it. Honestly speaking, I don't know. I want to believe so, but I don't know. Right? So why did I bring this example for us to have this conversation? Because as Brian Zen suggests, forgiveness, as Christ asked us to do, has to be unconditional. Has to be, I can't think about this, right, in the future. Because when we look at the gospel, the passage, right, for you forgive men or humans their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive man or human their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. So if we make mistakes, not if, when we make mistakes, we would like our Creator to forgive our mistakes, to forgive our wrongdoings, to forgive our offenses. It's imperative that we also forgive those that are being done to us. And the example that I used is for us to really put some perspective is, if she could forgive that, most of us in our lifetime, we're not going to go through a challenge like this, right? Let's be honest. Most of us are not going to be asked to forgive in such of a troubled scenario, troubled story, like the Armenian nurse was asked to forgive. Most of us will do what? Quite the contrary, unfortunately, right? Most of us will look at revenge versus forgiveness. Oh, I did this to me, he did that, and did this and did that. So why do we sometimes, look at revenge as opposed to forgiveness? What is the importance of forgiveness in situations like that in our lives? Or better, every time we don't forgive, every time we think about revenge, every time we're revengeful, we hold that toxic blame of resentment. And that brings a huge emotional toll to ourselves. We keep thinking about the situation. Oh, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get her. Oh, she is going to pay. Oh, he's going to pay. And then that keeps controlling our lives. we no longer have control to our lives. That emotion has control to our life. So we continue to be stuck on the pain, on those emotions. And let me break something to you guys. Our brains, they don't know if we are living a situation or if we are remembering a situation. Every time we remember something positive, guess what? We get the same endorphins and adrenaline of a positive feeling. Every time we remember something negative that caused trauma, we're reliving that trauma. All the endorphins and the adrenaline and all those things that contribute to us, our body to have that feeling, we feel the same. Our brains don't know if we're just remembering memories or living through that situation. So the challenge is we haven't learned, we as a humanity, as a society, haven't learned how to forgive. Because society out there asks us not to forgive. Hey, are you going to live the way it is? Come on, man. You deserve better. Come on. What you did was not right. It's not fair. You're a nice guy. You're a nice woman. What happened to you is not right and all that. So we keep hearing all these things that don't really bring us closer to forgiveness, but instead brings us close to what? To revenge. Well, let me use some analysis on revenge. So when I look at revenge overall, what happens? So revenge is obviously when a person sees that some harm was done, and that I conclude, that person concludes was caused by somebody else, right? I can't be revengeful to myself. It's impossible. It's biologically impossible, right? Then somebody else did something to me, and then, for example, if nature does something, or let's say there's a flood, or there's a catastrophe, or there's a hurricane, can I be revengeful to nature? No, it's impossible. We only feel revenge to other humans. Isn't that interesting? Then we understand that was caused by somebody else. Then we believe, the third checkbox here, then we believe it's not right. It's not true, not just. The harm, I'm such a nice guy. Why did so-and-so did this to me? And finally, I have a feel desire to retaliate, right? But the author, Dr. Brian Adams, tells us something very interesting, that book on the bottom right? He uses the term, or creates the term, unforgiveness, because it connects the idea that if we are not forgiving, we are automatically becoming revengeful. So the longer it takes for us to forgive, the more opening we do, the more opening we allow for revenge to populate our thoughts. Remember, if I'm thinking, if I'm remembering, I don't know if I'm living or thinking. My body or my emotions are the same. So he argues that, once again, if we don't forgive, it's the same as having revenge thoughts against those that did something to us, caused affliction, offended, and so forth. This book, my friends, teaches forgiveness as a vehicle, right, that can unlock healing spiritually, emotionally, even physically healing. The central idea here goes around that no matter what faith we all have, if we're Christians, Muslims, Jews, agnostics, doesn't matter, right? If we believe in the greater good, something bigger than ourselves, right? Forgiveness is truly what releases God's power into our lives, or the Creator's power into our lives. So when I look at this, okay, there's a lot of textbooks, a lot of academic authors, and talking about forgiveness. But let's go back to the gospel. Let's go back to one of the passages where Jesus said, "I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 77 times," when he was asked how many times we should forgive others. And the interesting part here is that the Judaism back then used the number 7 to convey totality. 7 days of the week, right? The entire week, and so forth. So 7 here, the connotation is we have to forgive to totality, to the extent of our strength, of our emotions, of our efforts, of our power, so forth, right? We don't just forgive, I'm going to forgive this one because this is a small one. I'm not going to forgive that one because it's a big one. No, right? So I need to forgive no matter what, to the extent of my power. That's what the gospel is asking us to do. Is it easy? Of course not easy. It's not easy, right? We know it's not easy, but we have the tools in order to do that. For example, Joanna the Angelus, the spirit author, spirit guide, talks to us about forgiveness benefits those who forgive, because it gives us peace of mind, emotional balance, and mental clarity, my friends. If we want to get stuck in a past or in a situation where that caused a lot of harm for us, what she's arguing is that mental clarity, it's really, really important. And mental clarity here, she talks about the state of emotional and physiological and psychological well-being in which that we individuals were able to use all our cognitive power and emotional capabilities, meaning we can function properly in society with our family, friends, with our demands of everyday life. That's what she's talking about. So in order for us to have truthful and meaningful lives, we have to forgive. There's no other way. That's what she's talking about. Peace of mind, emotional balance, and mental clarity. Why? Why does she say that? Because there's a difference between forgive and forget. When we forgive, we carry out one emotional path. When we forget, it's a different emotional path. So let me ask you this. Imagine that somebody did something really bad to you and you lose the limb. Or imagine a child that breaks a vase, right, in your living room, a crystal vase. Can you put that vase back together? You can, but it's not going to be perfect. Correct? It's not going to be, what it was before. It's going to have cracks and tears and imperfections. You can glue it back together, but it'll never be perfect. Meaning, it's impossible to forget. If somebody does something bad to us that's so harsh, like what happened to the Armenian nurse, do we really think that she's going to forget all that? What she's gone through? No. She's not going to forget the past. Because it's biologically impossible to forget the past. We cannot forget. Somebody does something to us that creates this huge emotional wound in our lives. It's impossible for us to forget. There's no way to do it. It's biologically possible. But it is definitely possible for us to forgive. And what John Angelis talks about is when we forget, we're getting something. We're so blessed that, you know what? I don't worry about this anymore. If something does something to me, that I don't even remember what that person did. It's too long ago. I was a little boy. I was a young man. I don't remember that. I'm getting like a gift of forgetting. When I forgive, I'm giving a gift to somebody else. I'm giving that. It's an act of doing something. It's an act of me going outside of my comfort zone to do something for others. Last time I checked, every time we go out of our comfort zone to do something towards others, to help others, to assist others, that's called charity. And as we learn through Spiritism, there's no salvation, right, without charity. So, once again, forgiveness is the vehicle. It's the path that we need in order to really achieve our spiritual evolution. Okay? All right. We can stop here, but there's a lot more content I want to share with you guys to really solidify the message. For example, imagine if somebody does something bad to us, and you think that something was unjust. Okay? So let me open up some of our minds here. So imagine if somebody does something bad to you, and then you go, oh my God, what happened? Am I too weak? I'm not gonna say something, or society asks us to be strong. Come on, we're gonna let it go? Come on, really? Say something, right? Be loud, whatever. Sometimes we're asked, oftentimes we're asked to do what? To speak back, right? To retaliate, to conflict that individual, to confront, rather, that person in one act. But let me bring us to what Spiritism teaches us. For example, we are not always the real victims. Imagine that all of our previous lives, this is not our only life, right? This is one of our lives. Yes, it's the best life that we have. It's the best version of ourselves. We know that. Version 5.0, version 7.0, right? But imagine that all of the former versions, they were imperfect versions. It's still imperfect now. They were even more imperfect earlier. So that means we've done some bad stuff, guys. Let's be honest, right? We've done some bad stuff in the past. We may have induced others to do some bad stuff as well. We may have betrayed others. We may have acted against, God's will, or we may turn, up to the court of divine justice and that's I regret doing this, right? So we actually been the authors of crimes in the past. And if you look at those crimes now, we would actually lament committing them. Because now we have an idea, a small idea that everything I do to others, I'm responsible for them. That's actually the best message that Spiritism can teach us. Nothing happens by accident. Nothing happens by mistake. Everything that happens to me, I'm responsible for it. That's the message that we learn through Spiritism. So, if somebody's doing something to me, I don't understand the motive. I don't understand the reason. There's a reason for it. Behind there's a reason. And if I can forgive that individual, I will likely be bypassing some years and years, decades, sometimes even lifetimes of obsession, right? It's obsession behavior in the future. So, who's their obsessor? Maybe that person was, that spirit was, still continues to be, because we were the ones who dropped some balls in the past, in our old lives. So, when you look at this as the power of forgiveness, it's a very powerful action. It's a powerful tool that we have. Okay? But let me give you some more, knowledge on it. So, why is it important to forgive? Why is forgiveness so important to our lives? Look at this book here, written by Dr. Fred Lefkin from the Stanford Forgiveness Program. This book was written, and he interviewed patients from 1997 to 2002. So about, give or take 5 years of research, 3,000 patients that he interviewed. The book was published in 2003, first edition. And then what he's talking about here is 70% of the patients, they feel a decrease in the feelings of emotional hurt, 13% decrease in long-term anger, 27% decrease in physical stress symptoms. Remember, 80% of emergency room visits are due or led by stress. The more I can reduce stress, the healthier I live. Headaches, backaches, sleeplessness, upset stomach, and so forth. 34% increase in goodwill towards the offender. So, to not forgive is to carry the baggage of bitterness. And that becomes very toxic. That becomes something that we carry, that we become toxic as well. And the more we become, the more toxic we become, guess what? Those that are around us, I don't want to hang with Flavio. Look, he's always mad, he's always grumpy, he's always sad, he's always complaining, he's always bitter. No, I don't want to know. That guy is just, oh my God, I can't handle it. Why? Because I'm carrying all the toxic back. The toxic back is, the odor is really going out. People are noticing that. So if you don't want to be in that situation, forgiveness is the vehicle. That's what Fred Luskin talks to us about. What about the gift of forgiveness? What's the gift to our lives to be forgiven or to forgive others? When I look at that, there's many situations where forgiveness is a gift. For example, if I use the analogy that Andrew Lewis in this book, amazing book by the way, if I have a chance to read, it's called The Integrated World. It talks about the spirit world or life in the spirit world. And it's really recommended. You can find them on, Amazon.com, Fab Publisher, many avenues that sell this book. But I want to use one of the quotes that the spirit author, Andrew Lewis, talks to us about. Andrew Lewis, summarizing or tries to summarize what really happens when we cultivate forgiveness. He talks to us about the more we cultivate forgiveness and humility, we learned that not only love saves, but it edifies forevermore. So what his argument is here is, okay, at first glance, it's simple. I gotta forgive, I gotta be humble, and love, okay? Easy, right? Easy peasy. But in reality, he's describing the path of spiritual evolution. And we are all immortal spirits, as we know, and as we learn through Spiritism. We are all born, without knowledge and simple, and we've conquered different steps of evolution, all the way up to where we are right now. And eventually we'll become angelic spirits like Christ and so many others that we don't know. Okay? So, what Andrew Lewis is arguing here is that forgiveness and humility prepare our souls for us to face the world that's out there. And then once we're ready, love starts to transform our lives. And the more love transforms our lives, the more love frees us from everything that's really bringing us, right, closer to earth. It's really giving us a perspective into the spiritual world, into the future, into evolution. And what we build, my friends, with love becomes eternal. Everything we build with love is what we carry with us through eternity, right? Past the tomb, past the discarnation that all of us are going to go to. So when we wake up in the spiritual world, nobody's going to ask us, hey, Flavio, how much money did you have? Did you follow a religion? Which country did you live? Were you married? Were you single? Did you have kids? No kids? No. Nobody's going to ask us these things, right? What we're going to be asked is, what have you done towards others? What have you done to enable, to help, to assist, to care, to provide a better life for those around you and beyond? And with forgiveness and humility, those are the two foundational blocks that we need. And if we build our house with a very strong, solid foundation, love, right, is in the air. Love really happens. And the more we love, the better we position ourselves towards evolution. Okay? So to exemplify that story that Andrew Lewis talks to us about, or to exemplify how forgiveness is important to our lives, I'm going to bring a story here of a person that was wrongfully incarcerated. So this individual is called Ronald Cotton, and I've shared his story before in a few of our talks, but it's such a powerful story that I always like to share because it gives us perspective into our society, how we as a society are living right now. We as human beings are treating others, and how can we overcome all these difficulties that are around us? So, in Burlington, North Carolina, Ronald Cotton was a baker. He was a baker, and he was working through the night shift to bake bread for the bakery to be able to sell bread in the next morning. He was coming back home, and he gets arrested, right? At the sunrise, he gets arrested. And he goes, oh, what's going on? Oh, you've been arrested for raping this young woman that was going to college. And then, oh my God, you didn't do this. This is not true. This is not right. Wasn't me. This happened in 1984, summer of 1984. More precisely, August 1st, he was arrested, 1984. Then he was arrested, and then he maintained his innocence. Through all the time, he maintained his innocence. Then he fought, and then he had a chance to reopen his case. So when he was convicted, he ended up getting a life in prison. So he will want to be able to leave prison at a coffin, right? After he passed away. Obviously, that was disappointing because there's a lot of things that happened that, it was inexplicable. How are they convicting me? I did not do the crime. It was another person who raped this poor Jennifer. And he gets arrested, he gets convicted, goes to jail, and then continues fighting. Okay? Continues fighting. And then a few years later, roughly 10 or so years later, he was able to reopen his case. He reopened his case. There was a new evidence that was discovered. They reopened the case. And then, while he was reopening the case, in the same prison in North Carolina, another inmate comes in and ended up meeting the other inmate. And that other inmate was the one who committed the rape. But he was arrested for something else, on the crime that he committed. And he starts mocking Ronald for paying for the crime that he committed himself. He tried to bring that to the court, but they didn't believe him. We can't trust an inmate. Every inmate lies. Right? Then on the second trial, remember, he got life in prison. And on the second trial, what happens? He gets the death penalty. So he was convicted to die in the electric chair. That's what they had back then. So that was a huge blow to his life. Imagine being arrested for a crime you did not commit. Okay? Imagine being in jail or in the prison, and you meet the man who committed the crime you're paying for. What are you thinking? Oh my God, this is not good. I'm gonna die. They're gonna kill me. So what do? I want to kill that bastard that committed this crime. There's nothing else I can do. Then his father, who is a minister, okay, comes to visit him in prison. Ronald, I don't know what's going on. I have no idea what's going on. But I do believe that God has a plan for this criminal injustice. God has a plan for everything in life. Ronald has already bought a shank, a knife, a prison knife, to murder that person. But it didn't have that in him. I'm not a murderer. I can't do this. You know? How am I going to do this? I don't know how to do it. I'm just a regular human being. Nice guy, you know? So what happens? Thanks to DNA evidence, this is 1996, the DNA science was developed. They were able to pinpoint that the DNA found on Jennifer's bedroom and on the semen and all that, it was not his. And then he's able to get exonerated. Okay? He got exonerated. Okay, great. I'm going to go home. Oh my God, 12 years he was in prison. 12 years he was in prison. Then he asks his lawyer, I want to meet Jennifer, the girl that, he's accusing me of rape. His lawyer goes, oh, that's not a good idea. Why do you want to do that? I want to talk to her because she pointed at me that I did it. So I want to hear from her what happened. I almost died because of that. And then, okay, I can bring to her a lawyer. I can make promises, but I'll see what I can do. So his lawyer brought to her lawyer. Her lawyer talked to her, and she goes, yes, I want to meet him as well. I really want to meet him because I almost, destroyed his life. I owe him an apology at least. So they decided to meet in a public space, okay? Then they agreed to meet, and then they met each other. And when they saw each other, their emotions were so high, they were so emotional that they ended up hugging each other for 21 minutes. They were hugging each other and crying and bawling their eyes out for 21 minutes. Let me ask you this, my friends. When was the last time you hugged someone for 21 seconds? Imagine 21 minutes holding each other. They become best friends. Jennifer had 2 kids. She had married ever since. She had 2 kids. Her third kid, he became the kid's godparent. And they go all over the world today talking about or against the death penalty. When you and I say something wrong about death penalty, something against the death penalty, yeah, who are you? I'm talking about death penalty. Look at these guys. He almost got killed by a crime he did not commit. She almost destroyed his life because she was induced by corrupt police officers, by a corrupt criminal justice system that wanted to convict somebody, in this case, a black man, for a crime that he did not commit. Nobody questioned. When she picked him on a lineup, they all look like, the guys all look the same to her. It was night, it was dark, she doesn't really remember. She was going through a lot of stress. And she went through hell almost, right? If you think about it, being raped and all that. But now they become best friends. They still hang out with each other. He became her third child's godfather, only and all because he forgave her. And she forgave him. Forgiveness was the tool that these folks used to build something meaningful to their lives. My friends, these guys have been to television shows, university campuses. They go all over the world. 60 Minutes on the popular right. This is the book that tells their story, Picking Cotton. Cotton because his family, they use a play of words here. Ronald Cotton is his last name. But his ancestors were all cotton pickers in North Carolina. That was the traditional slavery activity that they did a couple of hundred years ago. His family ended up continuing doing that, but he did not work on the farm. He was a baker, as I mentioned earlier on. Anyways, long story short, when you look at stories like this, when you look at examples like this, that normal folks, like you and I, everybody, regular folks, are forgiving such difficult situations. They're able to overcome their life hurdles through forgiveness. My friends, that's why this is the most important message that Christ left us. We don't have to memorize the gospel, the teachings, the evangelists. No. We have to remember, to be Christian, to follow Christ, is to forgive. Thank you.
Oh, wow. What an amazing story. Picking cotton, huh? But I want to just say thank you so much, Flavio. Your reflections were extremely insightful about forgiveness. And for all of us who are here, please, please, please stay with us for the Q&A session that will begin shortly after a few announcements. So we invite us all to follow us on social media channels. And when you do so, you stay updated on upcoming events and activities. Please do not forget to visit the USSF bookstore at spiritistbooks.us, where you find a wide selection of Spiritist books, including several exciting new releases. And if you work with the Spiritist youth or are interested in education resources, be sure to explore the Family, Youth, and Children's Spiritist Education, FIXI. Its website is spiritismkids.us, where you discover excellent materials and ideas for all youth educators wherever you are. And take a moment to check out Be My Hope app, which offers insightful, inspiring daily messages to uplift all of us. It's available for free on App Store or Google Play. And let's now turn our attention to your comments, your questions, and there's still some time to send yours, but feel free to share your thoughts. So, hey, let's go see how many we have. It's such a wonderful, wonderful presentation, and the topic can get many, many different aspects. But the first question is, we can say that Christ's teachings about forgiveness is foundational to our well-being. What does the Lord's Prayer mean when it says, forgive us as we forgive others? And I think you touched a little bit about it, didn't you, Flavio?
I did, yeah. So that part of the Lord's Prayer is really expressing the profound spiritual law that forgiveness is for all of us, right? One that goes far beyond just a simple request for mercy, right? Yeah. Hey, I made a mistake. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Please have mercy on me. So it's really a quid pro quo that for me to be forgiven, I have to forgive. Right?
Yeah. So it's a question of reciprocity, right, Flavio?
Yeah, I'll say that when we ask for forgiveness, when we ask to be able to forgive, we're asking God to help us become this kind person that forgives. Yeah. Maybe not the same level as Roland Cotton or this Armenian nurse, but to the point that no matter what people do to us, we're always going to be able to forgive. Right? Yeah. So we can really be free and receive forgiveness. That's the message, the way we interpret. Right?
Yeah, and I love it because to me, what I learned from you today is the question of resentment, right? And from a well-being or lack of well-being, just holding on to that can lead us to so much harm, right? Anxiety, I don't know, stress, etc., etc. So I think you mentioned at some point the gift, the forgiveness is a gift indeed that we can give to ourselves. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Let's see if we have another question. Okay. A beautiful book. Zan's central message is profound. Forgiveness is not about the past, it's about reclaiming our future. What would it look like to choose forgiveness even when it's difficult? And I think those stories that you showed are profoundly difficult. But how does it look like to choose? Because it's our choice, right, Flavio? It's
Yeah,
free will.
it's ultimately a choice. And the reason why I picked those two very profound stories is to ensure that if these guys are normal people like you and I, like everybody else, if they were able to overcome such difficult times, such difficult traumas,
Yeah,
things that happen to us are not compared to what's happened to them. And if they were able to do it at this level, we can do it at this level too.
yeah,
So to
yeah,
answer the question is, when I look at what's Brian Zand's message on his book, choosing forgiveness, especially when it's difficult situations and like betrayals and a lot of emotional toll, it's less about excusing what happened and more about freeing ourselves from being imprisoned by it. Because if we
yeah,
don't forgive, that's gonna be we're gonna be regurgitating that emotion and living again and the toxins and the difficulties and our body's gonna take a toll because of that. And right, so when you look at that, his message about forgiveness, it's about reclaiming our future. That's what is helping us do, reclaiming our future, and not so much
yeah.
about being stuck in the past.
Yeah, and to me, Flavio, what I thought about it is, whew, it's an exercise in self mastery. So, what's her name in Picking Cotton? Jennifer?
Jennifer, yeah,
Yeah. What an exercise of her to really hold on to principles. She made a mistake, right?
yeah.
But
Ultimately
to
made a mistake. Jennifer Thompson, she
yeah,
made
yeah.
a mistake, but she overcame the mistake.
Yeah,
So
but she
she
made a
was,
mistake,
yeah,
but she was a victim. She victimized. There's so much that you can do, but she had to work on self-mastery, just like he did. He too was a victim. They're both victims. So I just keep thinking, like you said, in that sense, forgiveness is really that deliberate, intentional, powerfully so act of liberation, right?
100%. Yeah,
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Let's see if we have another question. In what ways does holding on to resentment or a debt for someone else create a prison for our own spirit? So now we're moving into more of the core of spiritism, right?
this is a simple one, right? Holding a resentment or a sense of debt creates this prison into our minds because we're binded by that energy. As I mentioned before, if we are remembering a fact or a situation, our brains
Mhm,
don't know if we're living it or if we're just it's a memory. So the more
mhm.
we are stuck in the past, the more we're stuck in that, hey, somebody did this to me, or that emotional situation from the past, rather
Yeah,
than allowing us to move forward, we're not going to be able to live, right? We're not going to be able to overcome it, right? The
yeah,
mental fixation, the emotional weight that act brings to us, right? Oh, I
yeah,
can even say maybe the spiritual stagnation. We're stuck,
yeah,
can't let it go. I mean, all these, you think about all the. Oh my God, it's like no, it's time to break apart from that, right?
yeah.
Time to break apart and look for the future.
I keep thinking you reference Andre Louise, you reference Joanna de Angelis, Emmanuel, among others. And what comes to my mind, Flavio, is that resentment specifically, it's almost like a disruptor, right? It blocks ourselves from the most amazing feeling, which is love. And as we know, love agape is so far beyond of what we're able to
Oh yeah,
be at our level of spiritual maturity. But whatever that level we may be, holding on really blocks that, harnesses something that is really detrimental to us. And it even, I would say, distorts our sense of perception of what is really right or wrong, especially if we're really linking into, like we talked about, picking cotton, the book, right? It's you can get stuck in that victim mentality, or not, or really, take away those chains, that those resentments can cause us.
Yeah, we don't control what happens to us, right? We don't control
Mm-hmm.
to us. We can only control
Mm-hmm.
what we do in return, what we do to respond to those situations, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's and I would say, even before we go to the next question, is the fact that right, we're human beings, and we're trying, we're trying to evolve, but not there yet. So it is at this stage of our evolutionary path, it is almost a default to blame. I think you mentioned at the beginning, right? To externalize, to claim responsibility to what I'm going through, and in moving away from that is the sense of liberation that you talked about earlier, Flavio, but it's from within, right? It's the sense that you indeed are responsible for your own sense of freedom and liberation.
100%.
Let me see which other one. Revenge. Sorry, I lost my monitor. I'm back. Revenge strengthens a victim identity. We're just talking about it, where our sense of self is tied to the offense. It's interesting. So, what physical and emotional well being improvements could we expect when we're able to forgive?
I think it's just like I mentioned on the a couple of the authors that wrote,
Mm-hmm.
research and books about it. When we forgive, we're not just making a spiritual gesture. Oh, he's a nice guy. He's forgive. No,
Mm-hmm.
we forgive. We're reshaping our whole being, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. When we
Yeah.
forgive, we're transforming ourselves. Every time
Yeah.
we forgive, we're putting ourselves in a better place than we were before without being able to forgive. So
Yeah.
it's a mindset, it's a paradigm shift that I'm really transforming myself to become a better human being, a better spirit.
Yeah. I'm thinking here, I'd love to hear more from you. It's almost like when you say the paradigm shift, it's, to me, in my words, own words, would be that breaking a cycle that could, keep going. Let's say, for instance, I hurt you, Flavio, and you're upset with me, and now you really resent me, and you block me from even coming to you and amending those mistakes, et cetera, et cetera. So when we forgive, right, when we forgive, we break that cycle, and psychologically, I imagine that we are strengthening our sense of self-efficacy, because instead of being the victim, oh, poor me, I bring about a sense of autonomy in a position of power. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, but it's no different than what we learned from Jesus, right? Matthew 5:23, I think. When
Yeah.
if you Jesus asked us, hey, if you're offering a gift at the altar, remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your
Yeah.
gift there in front of the altar. First go and reconcile with them. Then come back and offer your gift, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody did something bad to us, again, we don't control what people do to us. And even if it's not our fault, Jesus is not asking, hey, it was on your, no, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. What we have to do as, disciples or students of Christ is try to make amends, try to forgive yourself, let your ego, put that aside. No, it's difficult, but try to put that aside, try to make amends before going out there and offering the gift. So now look at that, right? It's a mindset change. Not easy, because when you look at our society, when you look at it's been asked us to do totally opposite of that. Oh, are you not strong enough to be able? No. to talk at the same level. No, I don't want to talk at the same level. It's not going to do me any good. My talk track is I'm going to forgive. He or she was not in a good mood, not a good time, not having a good day, and they made something which I don't judge, and let's go. Let's keep going. So it's a mindset change that, again, the Armenian nurse and Ronald were able to do it. And if they were able to do it, we can do it too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And hopefully we don't have the same level of traumatic experience to forgive.
Most of us
right?
want, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Most of us want.
Yeah. Let me see if we have another one.
Nice.
And I think we may have, this is the last question just because of time. But how does the act of forgiving 70 times 7 free us from ties to their so-called enemies? Love that.
Yeah. So this part of the gospel is not really meant to be taken literally, right? As a math problem. Oh, 7 times 7, 7 times 7 is 490. No, instead, it really conveys the message of profound spiritual nature.
Yeah.
That forgiveness has no limits. There's no fixed limit. There's no time limit. There's no limits at all. So, again, how do we do that? By breaking the cycle of retaliation. I don't want to retaliate. I have no gain. I have no interest in retaliation. I'm going to detach myself from victimhood. As we talked about before, we're not always a victim. Nothing happens by accident. As we learn from Spiritism, if something is happening to us, we have a saying on that. We have a part on that. When we remove ourselves from victimhood, we start seeing the reality with different eyes. We're transforming relationships, right? We're cultivating spiritual resilience. And by practicing these things, we become a lot stronger spiritual beings or spirits overall by looking at, you know what? Yes, the person was very unhappy doing this thing or practicing that or carrying out that. I'm not going to judge. He must have a reason for that. I got mad, right? Don't negate your feelings, your emotions. I got mad. I got pissed off. I was disappointed. I need some time. Then once I shake things up, okay, what can I do? I can forgive. I can do this. I can try to be a better person, right? Not retaliate and really build spiritual resilience for me to continue living my life to the best of my abilities. To me, that's the message here.
Yeah, I love it. I love that notion of spiritual resilience, right? Because you're telling me, Flavio, that forgiveness is not a single act, but it's a process. And I guess each time we forgive, we become stronger against the notion of resentment, revenge, etc., etc. And it gets us closer and closer to that unconditional love that we talked about, that Jesus taught us about it, right? But I think, Flavio, we are at time. So I just want to say thank you so much. And wanted to announce that, before I announce, actually, I want to thank you also, all of you who are here with us today, and all of you who come week after week and watch our weekly Spiritism Talk series, because your engagement is truly important, is truly appreciated as well. And I want to invite you to join us again next Saturday at 11 a.m., as you can see on the screen, 11 a.m. Eastern Time for our next live session, where Susanna Simons will explore the topic of thought and will. And I do look forward to having you with us. Flavio, before you close, could you please share any final remarks or lead us with a closing prayer?
Sure. So once again, thank you for the invitation, Marcia and folks. It's always a pleasure spending a few minutes with our extended family of Spiritists or folks that have a passion for Spiritism, for learning, right, through a Spiritist lens, the teachings of Christ. So thank you for inviting us once again. So as we close, we'd like to thank our benemeric spirits, our guardian angels, for this blessed opportunity that amongst friends we've just had to study a little more about Jesus' teachings around forgiveness. the most important teaching from the gospel. May these teachings inspire us. May these teachings open up our hearts and minds so that we can be better spirits, we can be better Christians, we can be better human beings overall, practicing forgiveness, looking at others that are around us with a different set of eyes, trying to help as much as we can, try to assist, trying to extend a hand, trying to really become true disciples of our Christ. We'd like to thank also the workers of the eternal life who have been here with us, guiding our activities. May this prayer be taken to your heavenly Creator, our Father and Mother God, in gratitude for all the blessings we all have received, but also the difficulties, the problems, the opportunities to forgive those that are presented to our lives. Thank you once again, our Heavenly Father and Mother God. Please stay with us now and ever. Amen.